Welcome into a super edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. It's a Friday edition. Sorry, we got a little bit of a late start. My studio decided it wanted to do a Windows update right at 12:30, so we had to wait a little bit. Had to call an audible. Got RL Bynum in the house from the RL Tribune. Got Chris Lee in the house from WRL and Panthers Playbook. We're going to hit Panthers Draft. We're going to hit what the hell is going on in Chapel Hill right now, or Chapel Bill, however you want to call it. We're going to talk all of that and more. Ryan Stone's coming in a little bit later on to give us his best bets for the weekend. I'm curious if he has a bet on whether or not LeBron James plays basketball next year. So we'll get into all that and more. It's the Desmond Johnson Show. It's a Friday. Let's go ahead and go.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city needs that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you want and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's fourth and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Heat.
Welcome in. I forgot that was the first time you heard it the last time you were on. Shout out to James Glenn, who did the intro for the Desmond Johnson Show. He's also, you can hear him on Fridays in the fall. He's our opening for high school football. So shout out to James Glenn, doing good things down at, actually, I think he's up here in North Carolina now. We went to high school together. So he's been a great part of Tobacco Road. RL Bynum in the house from RL Tribune, Chris Lee in the house from WRAL. Got a lot I want to get to. We're going to start off in Chapel Hill or Chapel Bill, where some things have been going down this week, RL. I want you to lead this conversation with us here. What do you think that North Carolina is having buyer's remorse on hiring Bill Belichick after everything that's gone on the past couple of months, really, but it's kind of escalated this week after the CBS interview on Sunday morning. Everybody kind of knows the story by now. Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, she's almost 50 years younger. He's 73. She's 24, I think. And she's kind of become the consigliere of his life, it feels like, in terms of dictating what he can say, can't say, which is different for us who have grown up watching Bill Belichick be very guarded and to the vest. Do you catch a vibe from Carolina officials that they're having some second thoughts about this whole situation with Bill Belichick, or is it just full steam ahead?
I think the public relations or communications folks are probably not enjoying this, but I think overall, I think things are going well as far as the football part. But it wouldn't be much of a story if Belichick hadn't acknowledged her professional role, or she didn't chime in on the CBS interview. But I guess it's now a new twist on the Jordan brand or the Jordan rules, with a different twist. And it's come out today. She has $8 million in real estate holdings in Massachusetts. So,
I saw that. I'm very curious as to how that happened, because I did not have $8 million. I did not have $8 million at my disposal when I was 24 years old. I was trying to figure out how to graduate at UNCG.
You weren't dating the right person.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Where was my Jordan Hudson? Chris, your thoughts on this from the outside looking in? I know when you're not in the studio, you're a Duke fan, so you're probably tickled to death of what's going on over there.
No,
does it bother you at all?
No, Desmond, I leave all that stuff at the door. I don't really have any, but it's just from this standpoint, like, I am tired of hearing about his personal life.
Yes.
I'm ready for the football, right? Like, I'm excited for Bill Belichick, the coach, to be the person to cover and to see what happens on the field and to see what happens versus NC State, what happens versus Duke, what happens versus TCU in the first game of the year. Like, I really am kind of getting fatigued talking about his girlfriend who's younger than me. It's crazy. Like, I think I was like 15 when she was born. So like come on, like, she's too young for me.
Yeah, right.
What's going on with him? But whatever. I'm ready just to get to the actual football part and to leave the true Hollywood story alone on the outside.
I mean, it's not going to get any better. I mean, it's really between this and the national media talking about the Lakers going out in the opening round. That's been pretty much everything national sports talk has been talking about the past couple of days. With Carolina, though, RL, in terms of what Chris was talking about on the field, you got a chance to kind of see them practice a little bit. Any notes or anything you want to give the Carolina faithful in terms of what you're seeing? Have you seen former East Forsyth quarterback Bryce Baker in action? Your thoughts on him? Do you think he might end up being the starter week 1 as a freshman?
Well, the starter is probably going to be South Florida transfer Gio Lopez. I was there for the practice like a pro, and to be honest, the quarterbacks weren't that impressive in what I saw. So that's probably why they went and got Lopez after that spring practice, but they've done really well, I think, football wise. If you look past the salacious stuff, they've lost 22 guys, including Bo Atkinson, who went to Ohio State, but they brought in 13 guys. And they've really started to build the program from the inside out. They have 8 offensive linemen with lots of experience. The latest was South Carolina's Ja'Kiah Moore. That was today. So they keep adding to it. But, just in general, UNC is joining the trend of not having a spring game. And why is that? Because coaches are paranoid about what others might see. And I know for a fact that the coaching staff's paranoid about having video of the formations that they use on Practice Like a Pro event out there on public consumption. So it's kind of interesting how paranoid football coaches, Bill Belichick included, are about information being out there.
Well, a lot of that too is because of that second transfer portal window, right? That opens up literally like right after usually spring practices are over. So it's almost like you kind of get to see the stuff on sale and then you get to go shopping again, like right before the season. And I think they're gonna have to get rid of it, or something's gonna have to change, because you shouldn't be able to do this bargain bin shopping the way that college coaches can do. Because for every coach that's out there, that's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to contact players. And there's like a code of I'm not going to wreck or whatever. There's 5 other coaches that are like, hey, you want to come play for me? I don't care what I don't care what he said. Come over here and play for us. So it's got to be a way to level the playing field. While I got you both in here, actually, I want to switch over to ACC hoops and the transfer portal. With starting off with Duke, Chris, it feels like they kind of didn't. From the outside looking in, it feels like they haven't really gotten what they wanted out of the transfer portal like they did last year, where they kind of reconstructed the entire roster, let some kids go. There were starters last year. Told they're probably better off elsewhere. And then they brought in upgrades for the most part and built a really good roster, which kind of quieted a lot of the critics in terms of saying John Shire couldn't use the portal, because he really hadn't up to that point until last year. This year, it feels like they've got more guys returning, and they're kind of content with what they have returning. Do you have any news or notes on anybody that they're keying in on in the portal? Because we're really kind of towards the tail end of the basketball portal in terms of where they go. Actually, I think it ended last week. So if you didn't put your name in, then you're out of luck. But with Duke, what seems to be the philosophy with them going into next year?
Yeah, it's John Shire's kind of said a few times anyway, like they want to have the meat of their recruitment in the high school realm, and they want to bring up those guys and try to keep as many guys as possible. They did that, like, so for the second time in his tenure, he has no rotational players in the transfer portal. We saw a couple of guys who are walk-ons who, or I guess one guy who's a walk-on go into the transfer portal, but he wasn't going to play anyway, Stanley Borden. So I think things are kind of going the way that John Shire's wanted it to. And I know this for sure. Some of the guys who have had Duke attached to their name have never actually been contacted by Duke. They're using that for leverage to get more money out of other schools. So think about any big time names that have been, all of a sudden you see Duke on their name and then they, go to somewhere else really quickly after. Just from my contacts, they've never contacted them. It was more so like their agent doing feelers. And because of that, they can now put on social media Duke. So John Shire, everything's going this offseason the way that he wanted it to, planned it to. He had some backup plans, right? So if Cedric Howard didn't work out, Dame Sarr was the guy they're going to go after. They had some light interest in Andrei Stojakovic, but ultimately, I guess, he was going to be able to make more money at Illinois. It feels right now they're probably going to fill out their roster with maybe another high school recruit and maybe one other transfer. But if you think about it, last year was like the biggest transfer year they had, and they got, basically 4 guys, 3 of them who actually played.
Yeah.
And, the last piece to fall in that was before Cam, I can't remember his name, but it was Sion James, and that happened in May, and here we are in the early part of May. So, I probably expect to hear maybe something within the next week of another maybe high school recruit committing to Duke, and then maybe one more guy from the transfer portal to fill it out. Otherwise, John Shire's pretty much sticking with his plan. If he likes the guys that he has, he's going to try his best to keep them and retain those guys, bring in the high school guys that that he's recruited as 5 stars, and then just fill out with the holes from there with the portal.
Chris Lee and RL Bynum joining me here on the Desmond Johnson Show as we do a little ACC basketball portal roundup. RL switching over to Chapel Hill, 8 miles down the road. Before we get into the portal stuff, news came out that Zayden High, a name that a lot of Carolina fans may have forgotten about, looks like he's going to be eligible to play next year. Made the news this past week. Of course, he was suspended last year by the university. He was still allowed to be on campus. I guess he was put on probation is the best way to put it, due to what's the right way to phrase this here? He got in trouble taping something he wasn't supposed to tape. And because of that, they suspended him, conduct detrimental to the university. He was still able to go and work out, not with the team, but he was able to work out and use the gym and free meal, all the stuff he would as a student. I guess the probation's about to lift. It sounds like Hubert has saved a scholarship for him. If that's the case, then that's another big man. And Carolina goes from having maybe the smallest front court in UNC history to one of the biggest in the country, because Zayden High's 6'10", isn't he?
Yeah. The news from the reporting from the NNO was troubling about what he did, but it does sound like he's going to be reinstated. So if you just look from the basketball perspective, that would be a good addition and give Carolina some front court depth. But it's the biggest roster turnovers in 20 years for the program. I mean, the last time they didn't return a player who started 20 games was after the 2005 national championship, when they lost Sean May, Rashad McCants, Jawad Williams, Raven Felton, Jackie Manuel, Marvin Williams. I mean, nothing like that since then. Obviously, there are some players coming back, but it's really a crazy turnaround. They basically lost 5 in the portal and brought in 5.
Yeah.
So,
and they're much longer. The kids they're bringing in, they're longer, taller, 6'6" or taller, more likely than not. Jaden Young committing last week from Virginia Tech. Do you know anything about this Italian prospect? And I'm gonna get you on this one. I'm gonna get you out of here, and I'm gonna ask some Panther stuff to Chris before I get him out. This Dame Sarr, the Italian prospect that apparently Carolina has contacted.
Dame.
What either one of you? You know anything about this kid? What he's about, or who is
what I know is he's an Italian prospect. He was Duke's backup plan if they didn't get Cedric Howard from the transfer portal. But he's also showing up on a lot of mock drafts in the first round. So
yeah,
college is kind of a stretch right now for him. He could still go to college, and he is interested in and he's going to want to get paid handsomely if he does go. But I know that Duke kind of softened on him once they got Cedric Howard in the fold, and I guess I'll let RL kind of pick up from there, because I saw that Carolina had interest.
Right, and Carolina needs a 3, because it doesn't sound like Drake Powell's going to pull his name. Sounds like he's in for good for the NBA draft. So Carolina, they knew the roster construction issues of last season, and they avoided it with the 2 big elements they needed: size throughout the rotation led by Visar. So they've done that, but Drake Powell threw a wrench into that by going to the NBA, which I don't know that many people expected. So they need a guy like him, or they need another three to come in to finish out the roster. So I'm sure that Hubert Davis isn't done.
Yeah, I wish they had landed Stojakovic from Cal.
Right.
He ended up signing with Illinois. It would have been perfect at the three. It sounds like they got outbid. And I told friends that, after last year, don't expect Carolina to be outbid for any big man going forward. I didn't mean any player, like any other players, whatever. There's a big man that Carolina wants. I think going forward, they will get that man, whoever that is, based off of last year. But Andrei Stojakovic going to Illinois and shunning Duke and Carolina. So I'm going to let RL go because I'm going to move this over to Panther Talk. RL, we'll be back with you here in the next week or so, get more updates as the roster continues to flesh out and as we get closer to the end of our season and the beginning of the fall football season, which I'm sure you're definitely looking forward to. It's not like you have anything to do or anything right now. So, so we're going to let RL go. And Chris, I want to talk to you. Of course, Chris is the co-host of Panthers Playbook with our guy, Dennis Cox. You can catch that on YouTube. They put out episodes fairly weekly. I don't know if that's going to slow down now as we're into the slow part of the season, but your thoughts on the Panthers draft. Now that we've had a little over a week now to sit on it, it feels weird. And I'm sure you can relate because you guys have to talk about this Panther team every week, just like I do and many other Panther content creators. But did you get a sense of, by the time you got to Saturday, it was like going to a restaurant and telling them specifically what you want, like the ingredients you want them to use, and they go in the kitchen and make it, and they bring it out, and it actually tastes really good. Like it felt like they did what the fans wanted them to do overall, other than the curveball on Thursday night, I guess, to a lot of folks drafting Tedroto McMillan. But give me your overall final grade now that you've had a week to sit on it. We're not like emotionally attached to it as much anymore. Give me your final Panther draft grade as it stands on paper and your favorite pick.
I gave them an A because, it wasn't the draft that I would have designed myself, and I don't have a job in the NFL. So good for any NFL team because these guys know exactly what they're doing. But I gave them an A, and that's simply because I felt like there's a good chance that 7 of the 8 guys that they chose are going to make the roster, and maybe 8 out of the 8. Maybe 8 out of the 8 will make the 53-man roster because they filled in some holes in places that they needed, and they're putting some more competition in some areas that they needed to have it in. And when the first, it started off rocky for me though, seeing Ted McMillan getting T-Mac, getting chosen, number 8 overall, when there was so many top end, edge rushers right there, and defense was not the strong point for the Carolina Panthers last year. It was actually the weakest defense in the NFL
in history.
But when you go back in day 2, you double up on edge rushers, and not only just double up, you get 2 really good ones who, one had a first round grade, another had like a sub first round grade, kind of, in that middle tier. And he's somebody that feels like he has something to prove in Princely Umamielen. I love it. I love the value that they got, and I love the fact that they were able to, be able to, I guess, address a lot of needs that they had in the draft. Am I here?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay. And I thought that they would have gone a little bit more defensive heavy in the draft. They did a little bit more on offense than what I anticipated. But I actually like the picks with offense. The more I learned about Mitchell Evans, he was the one that I wasn't really quite sure about. The more I've learned about him, it's like, okay, he could probably be, a decent third tight end that could maybe grow to be something else later on. I love the idea of getting Jimmy Horn. If they didn't get Ted McMillan and got Jimmy Horn Jr. as the only wide receiver coming in, I would have been happy with that because it addressed the one need that they absolutely had to have, which is speed on the outside. And they just didn't have that. I love the idea of, I probably would have picked another running back, but I don't mind Trevor. Is it Trevor or Travis? One of them.
Etienne. It's Trevor.
Yeah. Can't remember which one.
One of them.
One of them. It's like it's like Plumlee's or Zellers.
Right.
You're not sure which one. But I do like the idea of ETN, especially after hearing Dan Morgan talking about him, saying, hey, he can help us out, punt return, kickoff return, things like that. And that made me say, Raheem Blackshear.
Yeah.
You may not have a job.
It felt like half those picks felt like, such and such better watch out, because that pick screams competition to me. Like whatever it was cut from Mitchell Evans, because we already have like 4 tight ends already, like for them to go and get a tight end. And then what do you think is still the weakest part of the roster after, now that we're out of free agency, now that we're out of the draft? What's the weakest part? They still are really thin depth wise, or you're just not sure talent wise. What's going on? What room? What group?
I was hoping the DB room in general would have gotten fleshed out a little bit more in the draft. I do like the pick of Lathan Ransom. He's going to be good. And it looks like, they're kind of dropping breadcrumbs that the way they described him at first felt like he was more of a strong safety, but they've been dropping these breadcrumbs on social media about, how many snaps he's played at different positions on the field. And they're showing basically, he's basically going to be our free safety guys. But if we need to pull him in the box, he can do that. And he can make the tackles, and he's going to look good next to Trayvon Merrick. I do like that. But outside of him and Trayvon Merrick, you really only have Nick Scott and a couple of and Damani Richardson. And, are you comfortable with that? Do you want a little bit more competition at safety? I think I would. And then cornerback, you have J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson, and, of course, Shaw Smith-Wade. You do have Shamar Bartholomew, who really didn't play a lot last year. And you have a few others. Are you comfortable with that? So the DB room in general, I would have wanted a little bit more competition in. But I'll say this. If those guys that we do have stay healthy, they addressed a lot when it came down to that front seven that could keep offensive lines very busy, that could maybe make the coverage for the secondary a little bit easier, because like they've got guys who can stop the run, they got guys who can get off after the quarterback, and it feels a lot deeper now on that part of the ball. So, but I think the secondary is going to be the weak spot for the Carolina Panthers.
One of my good friends, Aaron Beal, who's the defensive coordinator for East Forsyth for a long time, currently not coaching at the moment, but I'm sure he's going to pop up again in the triad here soon. He used to tell me all the time, he was like, it's hard to throw when the quarterback's sitting on his behind. You know, so like if you can get him down, you can kind of get away with having a weaker secondary if your front seven's getting to the action in the backfield. I know you got a hard out. Real quick before I let you go, though, real quick, WWE, you saw the faction form of Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman after WrestleMania, and then even more so this week. If there's a fourth man or person, who would Chris Lee like to see in that group?
That's hard. I've been kind of thinking about that for a minute, and I'm not quite sure where I would go personally with that, unless they want to do like some sort of a swerve and get maybe somebody from NXT like a Trick Williams, and bring that type of person up. Because when you're in a group like that, you got Paul Heyman, you got Seth Rollins, who has had a great tenure in WWE so far. You got Braun Breaker, who you already know is going to have a great tenure. This is one of their ways of protecting him. Now he's going to be at the top of the card with other people at the top of the card. Why not put somebody in there as well that you want to protect and that you could see a lot of money in, and that you could easily book them at the top of the card for 2 years so they can learn. And I think we've seen Trick Williams he has some growth as far as in the ring, but his character, his mic work, his ring work isn't even really that bad. It's just that he's got to kind of smooth a few things out. I think he's gotten a lot better in the ring as well. But he's somebody who could be a top star. It like literally probably could be the one person who could talk 60, 70,000 people to come to a WrestleMania to see him fight, down the line. And so, maybe somebody like him, but think I'm open. I've kind of this is kind of a boring answer, but I've kind of fallen back on looking at what I want WWE to do versus like just letting it letting it ride and enjoying the ride.
We've been spoiled.
One of the things I say, one of the few pieces of criticisms I have with them right now is I feel like you have a problem with The Rock, and as a big Rock fan, I have that was hard for me to say. It was hard for that to come out of my mouth.
I'm with you.
Why have him come out of Elimination Chamber to do what he did and say what he said, for him not to show up at WrestleMania and to not show up at Raw after WrestleMania and to basically look like he's not in any plans in the future? It doesn't quite make sense, and it feels like maybe something is going on with that. But I like the direction of everything else and where they're going, and I feel like they're placing these breadcrumbs out here for the reformation of the bloodline at some point. Roman has to go through his dip, and everybody else without him starting to ascend. Once humble Roman Reigns comes back and rounds everybody else up, once they start going through their dip, I'm going to like the next iteration of the bloodline. And they have some natural adversaries now in this new faction that's being formed with Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and now Braun Breaker. It's going to be pretty cool.
And this is Paul Heyman's history. I mean, this is what he's done. I've kind of been waiting for it to happen, from the turn on Roman and then eventually find its way back to Roman. Find Stephanie's Places. It's on Hulu and on ESPN Plus. The new episode is actually The Bloodline. They're sitting on a yacht. It's like all of them: Jacob Fatu, Roman, Paul Heyman, the Usos, Sami Zayn. They're all sitting around like eating and like talking with Stephanie. It's really insightful in terms of behind the scenes and what they are. And from what you said, it made me think the same thing. Eventually, we're going to see a much bigger, improved Bloodline 2.0 a year, 2 years down the line. And they're already establishing Jacob and Jay and all these others as individual artists. I gotta get you out of here. You're late for whatever it was you had to go do. So I need to get Chris.
Just getting ready for work. That's it.
Okay. Put some water in your face. You'll be good to go. You'll be good to go. Hit all the hot spots. So I'm gonna get Chris out of here. And I'm gonna bring in my man Ryan Stone, who does our best bets segment for us. It's been a minute since we had you on, and you're a little bit, I have you on a little bit later because I don't know if you heard, but my studio's going through a Windows update right when I'm supposed to be doing the show, which is when it always happens. Yeah. Had to call an audible, had to pull the laptop out and do it in the living room. I was joking at the beginning of the show. I'm curious if you have a bet yet on whether or not LeBron James plays basketball next year. Is that something you've looked at yet? I'm sure that line is out there.
I don't know. That's not anything I've heard anybody talk about. I would think. I mean, he's got a player option. I would think he's going to take the money.
It's $52 million.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, no matter how good he is financially, I think he would probably going to take the money.
Yeah, even if he shows up and stinks it out, like it's still $52 million. You're 40.
I have seen a lot of Lakers fans trash talking LeBron, but LeBron wasn't the problem. He was the least of their problems in that series. To be honest, you know what's starting to happen. Everyone that was clowning Nico Harrison in Dallas for getting rid of him, now they're like, you know what? Maybe he saw something. It's coming around. They gave up on a guy that you can consider him a generational talent if you want to, maybe offensively. But I heard Jay Williams talking about it yesterday, I think on ESPN. Can you really consider him a top 3 player in the NBA if he's just such a liability at one end of the floor? Because there's nobody like that.
I've never thought he was a top 3 player in the NBA because of that. Like, look,
some people did.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did. Yeah, I didn't, because he never plays defense. Like even last year when they got to the finals, that first part of that Western Conference final, he wasn't playing defense at all. And then once they kind of got their back against the wall, he played average defense, and it was enough for them to get to the finals. But in the end, he was kind of a liability. And that last game the other night against Minnesota was picking on him, especially in the second half. They were going at him, and that's a sign of disrespect in terms of your defensive capabilities. But give me some best bets here for the weekend, because while that series is over and that's dominated national talk the past 2 days, that the Lakers are out in the first round and what's going to happen with LeBron and Luka's fat or whatever people want to say. I don't even think he's fat. What coming up this weekend as I pull up the ESPN tab? Where are we going first here? Like, what's going to be?
I think my favorite thing I saw somebody say on Twitter about Luka, by the way, being out of shape is, how can you possibly be 6'7", play this many games of basketball a year, and still be fat at 26 years old? It's kind of impressive that he manages to pull it off, to be honest. But
didn't they show him like smoking cigarettes or something after the game, or drinking a beer or something?
Yeah, Michael Finley took a beer out of his hand last year when they were celebrating after the Western Conference Finals. That was pretty hilarious. Anyway,
they do that. They drink
for tonight's game, I'm expecting the playoff Jimmy to show up. So I like Jimmy Butler over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think the Warriors, I think they're rested because of what they did the other night when they pulled their starters with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. They were essentially going all in on tonight because they do not want to go back to Houston for a game 7. So
that's what it felt like. Yeah,
I think they're all in on tonight. So I think Jimmy Butler over 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists is a good bet. I also like. I put a parlay together for it right before I came on the air. Actually, it's the Warriors money line, Butler over 30 points, rebounds, and assists, and Curry over 30 points, rebounds, and assists. That pays plus 109. So. Some decent value with that if you like the Warriors and you like those two guys to play well tonight. But that's what I like for tonight with the Warriors and Rockets game 6.
ESPN Bet has Golden State favored by 5.5. The over under is 207.5. Golden State wins. They move on to the next round. They definitely do not want to go back to Houston. So, yeah, this is kind of a do or die game for Golden State, even though they hold a 3-2 series lead. Saturday, May 3rd, the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets, which has actually been a really good series.
Yeah.
It's at Denver, but Denver's only favored by 1.5 points in that game. It's on TNT at 7:30 Saturday night. Any thoughts on that matchup?
I like the Nuggets money line. Right now, I hadn't looked at any props or anything like that, but I just trust the Nuggets in this spot. They've been here before. It's the Clippers. Even though as great as Kawhi Leonard's playing, I don't trust the Clippers, and I don't trust James Harden in a game 7. If you look at his numbers historically in game 7s, he is awful.
Yes,
22% from 3 in game 7s in his career. Now maybe this is the outlier and he goes crazy, or maybe Kawhi prevents him from losing the game. I don't know, but the game's in Denver. It's a game 7.
Yeah,
they have the best player in the NBA on their team, so I will take the Nuggets money line.
Denver did lose a game 7 last year to Minnesota in the playoffs, but that was Minnesota, not the Clippers. That is tomorrow night on TNT, True TV, and Max. Any other games in the NBA that you're looking at?
Not necessarily specific games, but earlier this week I did bet the Cavaliers to win the East at plus 170. It's more so. So it's twofold. I don't know that this is actually going to happen, but one, Boston's not healthy. Tatum missed a game; he's still banged up. Jaylen Brown's playing hurt. Porzingis is in and out of the lineup all the time. Drew Holiday has been banged up. They're not completely healthy. So I am a Celtics fan. If I'm a Celtics fan, I'm worried about them, possibly missing guys or losing somebody at some point to injury. But even if it doesn't happen, if these two teams were to play, Boston and Cleveland in a game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and say Cleveland takes game 1 in Cleveland, the books are going to start giving you incentive to buy out, to take the payout on that bet, and then you also have the opportunity to hedge with the Celtics in that series. Also, in that same vein, I did bet a little while ago. I bet the Knicks Celtics series to go over 5.5 games. Same reasoning, really. It's because of the health of the Celtics, and I think there could be games where they sit guys and essentially punt those games because they don't necessarily need them. And this is, for the Knicks. This is why they went and got these guys. This is why they went and got Karl Anthony Towns, is for this specific matchup. I don't think the Knicks will win the series. They may not even push it to 6, but I just feel like the value at plus 120 for over 5.5 games was decent value to take.
Now that my Lakers are out of it, and they're out of it early, which I'm not used to, like in my lifetime. If they're in, I think it's the first time they've lost as a 3 seed in the first round, like ever, as a franchise. Golden State, really more because of Steph, is kind of like my second team, and not counting the Hornets, of course, but the Hornets are so far away from this conversation that, yeah. But Golden State's kind of the other team I root for or go search out to watch because of Steph. So I'll probably watch a little bit of that game tonight and then just follow them along. But I'm sort of looking at what's left and what matchup I'd probably like to see in the NBA Finals. Kind of wouldn't mind seeing Golden State, New York. like that scene, because we've seen Golden State Boston before.
It'd be fun. I mean,
in New York in the finals, that's a different kind of juice, you know. So
I think the best matchup, just basketball wise, is Thunder Celtics, but we'll see.
And really, honestly, Thunder Cavs is really the best matchup it could be. But of course, ABC they don't want that. They don't want that matchup.
No,
they do not.
They'd be okay. They'd be okay they'll be fine as long as there's one big team in there.
Yeah, as long as there's Boston or Golden State or somebody else in there. If they get Cleveland versus OKC in the NBA Finals, they are going to lose their minds. Even though that's probably the best matchup overall. I got to get. Yeah. Is there another one you got?
Also, you brought up the Hornets. The lottery is on Tuesday night, so I guess we'll find out who they may be getting on Tuesday night.
Oh, Lord. Every time they're in this position, every time there's a generational player available and Charlotte has a chance to get the number 1 pick, they get the number 2 pick.
I just hope for Cooper Flagg's sake he doesn't have to go to Utah. That's
I would think he would rather go to Charlotte than Utah, right?
Oh, yeah, I would think so too.
Living in Greensboro. His parents rent a house in Greensboro so they could watch him play in Durham. They could just stay there and watch him play in Charlotte. And he would fit right in. Right in. Any thoughts before I get you out of here, though? I saw that the Bucks are going to actually. And one more thing, breaking news from an hour ago in the NBA: Greg Popovich stepping down as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs to take a role in the front office, and it's going to be interim Mitch Johnson will take over head coaching duties. So he will inherit that team with Wembanyama and maybe Chris Paul and others. So.
Did most of the coaching this year anyway, so
so just a nice seamless transition, I guess, for the Spurs to get over there for that. What was I about to ask you? Real quick, because it had to do with Charlotte. I saw the Bucks are preparing to put together trade packages for Giannis because I guess they assume he is not going to be back next year. There was 5 teams in the bundle that they were interested in trading with. Charlotte was one of them. What are your odds that Giannis Antetokounmpo is a Charlotte Hornet next season? And would you trade that first round draft pick in the package this year for Giannis? I mean, you're going to have to give up way more, but yeah, I assume that's going to be a part of it.
Man, that's
how old is Giannis? Like 28?
He's 30. He's 30, I think.
Okay, so he's probably in his peak. Yeah,
he's in great shape anyway. So I mean, he takes care of himself. It would be hard not to trade for Giannis.
But I'm assuming they're putting Charlotte in it because Charlotte has a load of draft capital right now. Like over the next couple of years, they got a bunch of first-round picks, second-round picks. So, would you trade LaMelo Ball for first?
I'm already on the trade LaMelo Ball. It doesn't even have to be for Giannis, but anyway.
That would help with the salary.
I mean, he is another Luka Doncic essentially.
Except he can't stand the court.
The thing that kills me about LaMelo is, they do the exit interview with Coach Lee at the end of the season, and he's like, he's got to get stronger. And it's like, people have been saying this about LaMelo since he got in the NBA, that he's got to get stronger. Like, he's got to get in the weight room and take better care of his body, and it just hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of you're just kind of waiting for the same criticism over and over again to finally take hold, and you just kind of wonder if it ever will.
I'm sorry, my chihuahua's going nuts. So somebody came to the door. That's the sign that it's time to end the show anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. My wife's trying to wrestle her around. We will be back next week. Now that we're deeper into the NBA playoffs, I can have Ryan coming on here as we kind of see what the weekends are going to be. I don't know if you do a lot of baseball or anything like that. I don't really do a lot of baseball, and usually we stop our season right around the middle of May. But we'll definitely bring Ryan back in to get you guys some money in your pockets over the weekend. We're going to take off before Sadie starts barking again. We'll be back Tuesday with a new episode.